Whitney. Who's that girl? It's Whitney Reynolds. Oh, she's got a show. Catch it on the weekends. Every single Saturday, right at noon. On Chicago's NBC 5.2.
Hello and welcome to Weekends with Whitney. I'm your host, Whitney Reynolds, and today we are talking about getting a job. I'm sure most of you are out there wondering, okay, I'm in a position now, how do I get to my dream job? Or maybe you're unemployed and looking for that perfect position. Well, we are going to help you today here. The W3 team has a full lineup of people that are going to help you, starting with David Fisher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here because not only are you a consultant now, president of your own company, but you used to be in HR. So I feel like you're the perfect person to help coach some ideas into the people that are watching on ways they can get a job.
Great. I don't know about perfect, but hopefully pretty good.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the company you're with now.
Well, Rockstar Consulting is a professional development firm. We do coaching one-on-one with individuals, as well as I do personally a lot of speaking. And then I'm also the head of training for Ajax Social Media, which is the only training company on LinkedIn certified by LinkedIn.
That's awesome. So we're going to get all to that later on in the interview. But first of all, going back to your HR days, when people would come to you or with applications or they would send in their resume, what were some things that stood out that were major no-nos?
Actually, in the beginning of the interview process, especially when you're looking at resumes, you're actually, in my opinion, looking for reasons not to bring someone in. So some of the big no-nos you're looking for, even just presentation is the first place I always looked. If you couldn't have a clean, crisp resume, I knew the kind of work I would be getting from that person if I hired them.
Absolutely. So one of the things I was talking about with some of my girlfriends that were applying for jobs is the 2-page resumes. Like, to me, that is way too much.
It actually depends. If you're entry level, if you're kind of new in your career, 2 pages is completely unnecessary.
Right.
If you're an established, somebody who's established in their career, if you've been out in the world a while, in the workforce a while, you might need 2 pages to accurately convey your story. And so it really depends on where you're at in your career.
Okay, so for my college students that are interns here on the show, would you recommend them of course they would put their internship with me, but would you recommend if they were like president of student council at DePaul?
President Student Council is a pretty impressive position. I definitely would.
So you would put?
Yeah, anything that's going to help them tell their story of how they can bring value to the organization.
What about a sorority or a fraternity? Would you add that?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
So right out of school, you're saying it is okay to include a lot of your college experience because that's what they've been doing. It's
what they've been doing, and again, the big thing is to make it relevant to what they're trying to do. What's that next step? What kind of job are they looking for? That really will determine what experience from their college career they're going to bring in.
Fillers on resume. There might be a year where you didn't have a job. Do you fill it with something that maybe was there, but it maybe wasn't? Like, I know for me, it's always a red flag if I see a year that maybe someone wasn't working. I'd rather see they were volunteering somewhere or maybe have a position of some sort during that time.
I think you have to be careful about making things up.
That's probably a very good point.
And it's interesting, we all take off time for different reasons. It'd be very different if you're 23 and you took a year off because you traveled the world.
Okay.
Well, put that down. That's a pretty interesting.
You would put that you traveled the world?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you go to the other side of the world, if you can tell me that you were in Thailand and were able to navigate
you were
the
Milwaukee,
world. You were Milwaukee, not quite as exotic. But what an amazing skill set to say that you were able to go into a foreign country and, again, get through the day. That's something that you might be able to translate into a skill that's going to help that company.
So when people actually get that interview, how would you tell them to approach it? One of the things that I always did, and I'm speaking from my own experience, I would go in as if I already had the job. I would go in as if I was trying to decide if they were the company I'd want to be with. So almost like I had a little bit more confidence when I walked in.
Confidence is critical. One thing I always tell people, though, is you want to assume that you have the job, but more importantly, you want to really try to find a good fit.
Right.
I kind of look at it like dating. If you're going on a first date, do you want to assume you have a second date? Maybe, it depends if you like the person. You might not want a second date. So the more you can go into an interview going, my goal is to figure out if this works. If this is something that we should continue talking about. Just like, again, a first date, both people are going, hey, is this a match? Should we have a second date? It's the same thing with the job interview.
Going back to the thing you told us about earlier, the LinkedIn stuff, how important is that for people looking for a job?
I think it's critical, and actually it's, I think, critical for everybody, even if you have a job now, but you might be looking for one in the future. Even if you love where you're at, you never know what's going to happen.
When I first moved here, I was trying to get a job in TV, and I kept meeting people that worked on another talk show, and I would meet them, and I would say, oh my goodness, I will Facebook you, and I remember them looking at me, and it was new.
Right.
Coming from Texas, I don't know if LinkedIn wasn't as big then, or, but they would say, LinkedIn me. And I was like, what? And I remember going home and looking it up, and I was like, okay, I got to set up. So I've been on LinkedIn for a while, and then, obviously, like now, I just would rather people go through my website than LinkedIn me. But it is a way that's not as informal as Facebook, would you say?
Absolutely. LinkedIn really is the premier professional social network out there.
It is. And so it's not offensive if someone sends something through LinkedIn.
No, in fact, I mean, it's getting to be expected. Even in the last 18 months, we've seen huge growth in it. Right now, there's 150 million professionals on LinkedIn, and not everybody gets to have their own TV show and has their own website.
You're right. That is a good point.
So, just for all the professionals out there, whether you're, an executive, a manager, a line worker, salesperson, accountant, it gives us a place to have that professional record of note. And if you are looking for work, it's definitely a place that potential employers are looking, not only for candidates, but also when you do reach out, that's one of the first places they look.
One thing I would caution people, I know with LinkedIn, when I get on there, every now and then I see kind of the same Facebook type updates, because I think they have it linked. They have it like all linked together.
Right.
And so for LinkedIn, I would really caution people, if you're using it to get a job, keep it very professional.
Absolutely. Different sites have different etiquette.
Right.
So what would be normal on LinkedIn is not acceptable on Facebook, or Twitter is completely different.
Where can people find out more about you?
I'm all over the internet. You can find me at my LinkedIn profile.
There you go.
LinkedIn.com/in/DavidJPFisher.
Okay, great.
Or rockstarconsulting.com.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys, coming up next, we are going to hear a 30-second pitch from a man desperate to get a job. We'll see if you're hiring right after this break. This portion of Weekends with Whitney is brought to you by Gia Lux. For that gorgeous, intelligent, ambitious woman who knows what she wants, Gia Lux designer handbags brings that high-end style at a reasonable price. Make a statement this spring and add color to your life with Gia Lux. Visit www.shopgia.com for the entire spring collection. Hello and welcome back. I'm Whitney Reynolds, your host for Weekends with Whitney. Today we are talking about landing that perfect job, ways that you can get either the dream job you've always been wanting, or if you're unemployed, trying to get just in that position to get you back on your feet. I'm joined by Rob Chikowitz. Now, you have been looking for a job.
Yes, I have.
You've been looking for a job in what profession? Tell us.
In movies, which is my true love.
Well, our first guest actually was talking about resume perfection. Now, very rarely do people get the opportunity that you are about to have, being able to tell Chicagoland why they should hire you. So we're going to give you 30 seconds. I want my intern to put it on the clock, 30 seconds, to tell Chicagoland why you should be their next employee. Go ahead and look in that camera and do it.
Well, for me, I would say number one, and most of all, is my passion for movies. I've been a fan of movies since I was 5 years old. I think I've probably been to a movie a week. So you're talking 48 years of movie. I've got experience in carpentry, plumbing, electrical, painting, which would help me behind the scenes as far as set decoration, things like that. I've also helped out assistant production managers on 2 movies out in Los Angeles when I lived out there. And I've also done voiceover for a movie here.
Well, time is up, and we ended on voiceovers here. So it sounds like you are very eligible. Maybe someone out there is thinking right now, oh my goodness, I'm going to be doing a movie. I need this guy's help. So let's talk about why you have not been able to land this job.
Well, in this, especially in the movie profession, you've got a lot of people that really, movies I think are universal. Number one, I think everybody loves movies.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find somebody who says, no, I never watch TV, I don't watch movies. So you've got a lot of people who are, who feel that they're qualified to go. Now, for me, I would never want to be on the other side of the camera now, not with this mug.
Oh, but it looks so shiny and bright today.
It's like everybody said, I've got a great voice for radio. So,
well, that's
which is fine. But I have done on occasions with a friend of mine in the band doing, roadie work, things like that. And I've always been more fascinated with that aspect.
Is it
of
hard, you think, to get your foot in the door? That's the
That's
question.
where the key is. You have to know somebody. You've got to know somebody.
You really feel like you have to know someone?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, at my age, yes, you do.
So
for younger kids, no.
I'm going to interrupt with one of my quirky stories. When I first moved here, I did not know anyone. And so I thought I needed to get a job very creatively. And so I actually sent a shoe to one of the stations I was applying to. And I titled it, "Now that I got one foot in the door, let me get the other one in." And so and they actually gave me an interview. And so that's where I was going to go with the needing to know someone. Sometimes you have to be a little quirky if you don't know someone.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. It does help too to have, you've got a lot of schools now that are offering film classes.
Right.
So you're getting kids that are coming out of college that have gone to Columbia and places like that in New York.
Have you ever felt like
course.
giving up on this dream?
No,
Okay.
I haven't. I loved movies too much. As I said before, I feel I would be a very big asset, not only for the amount of films I've seen, which probably.
Your 30 seconds is up. You're still pitching these folks.
I'm just saying, we're talking, but as far as getting a job in this field, behind the scenes, yes, now I think it would be easier than before because there's a lot of independence coming up.
Do you feel like you look like a person that would work on the movies?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
You're ready to land that job.
yeah.
Hopefully one of our viewers is watching right now.
I hope they are.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think that would be wonderful.
So you've been trying to get this job. What do you think is holding you back?
Well, I think a lot of it is having it's having the drive like you did, or the creativity like you had, to get yourself to land that job. The shoe, which is that's just a great bit. Whether I was going to hire you or not, if somebody sent me that,
It could have gone either way, I think.
could have,
I was going to
but-
say, people could have thought that was a little crazy.
Well, but still, it makes you interesting enough to bring in. And I think that's the key to at least getting to know someone there, or get in and at least get an interview with somebody.
Right.
Is something like that, something unusual like that, or having some kind of background that would make you more of an asset than someone else.
How many years have you been trying to get this job?
Oh God, probably 15.
Wow, I'm going to stop you right there. 15 years and you're not giving up. I love your tenacity. But guys, coming up next, we have a group that works with people just like Rob. We're actually going to bring them on the set at the end to work with Rob on ways to land that perfect job. And if you watched Rob's pitch and are interested in hiring him, go to weekendswithwhitney.com for more info. We'll be right back. This portion of Weekends with Whitney is brought to you by Smile Actives. Create a fresh new smile with the advanced clinically proven Smile Actives tooth whitening pen. Smile Actives is an easy way to dramatically whiten your teeth anytime and anywhere. Are you ready to take the Smile Actives challenge? 7 shades in 7 days. I know I'm doing it. If you want to know what makes me smile, this is it. Visit smileactives.com. Hello and welcome back. Today we've been talking about finding that job, and I'm joined by Matt Elwell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now you're with Comedy Sports Chicago. You're the president and CEO, big title, but you have a lot of big things going on over at Comedy Sports. And I'm sure people at home are like, why did they bring him on? He's with Comedy Sports to talk about getting that job. But you are actually doing a ton of training for people that are taking classes, because either they need to be more outgoing or they need little tricks to help land that job. Tell us what you're doing.
So what we're working on is with people who have maybe functional expertise but are moving into a position that requires more soft skills. So the talking to other people, the networking. You also often have people who have technical skill, and then as they move up the ladder, they move into progressively less technical, more managerial roles.
Ooh, yeah.
And so our job is to make that easier.
There's a lot of people that I can think of right now that they are so brain smart, but when it comes just to talking, they clam up. And so that's part of getting that job, is the interview.
Well, especially if you want to move up in your career.
Absolutely. You have to be able to talk and get out there and express yourself, I feel like.
And that's what our improvisers do every night on stage. So it just makes sense that we would train everyday people on how to do the same thing.
How did this evolve? Like, was it that you saw the unemployment rates going up and you were like, we need to help these folks out? Or was it a suggestion in the suggestion box? Or how did you come up with this idea?
Well, training's always been a big part of our business. You know, there's really no one who comes to Chicago as an improviser. People have to learn to be improvisers in Chicago. And so training is a big part of getting people on stage.
And when you say improviser, let's talk about that. Like when you mean like filling in the gaps and just being able to flow with a conversation?
Well, I'm talking about the professionals who actually perform our show. So we've been doing improv comedy in Chicago for 25 years, and we use the same skills that our performers do on stage to make an audience laugh, to help someone in business wow someone who's interviewing them, work with a team of people, create fantastic ideas on the spot. So a lot of business skills are the same thing we're doing on stage every night.
So we're going to bring the guy that was looking for the job, Rob, back on here in a little bit, and we're going to have you guys both work together. But what are some tricks that you might teach people at home that would be easy things to do if they were going in for a big interview?
Well, we really focus on the nonverbal. You know, we think a lot of people have their verbal skills down. That usually is based in their technical expertise, but it's the things around the verbal. So there's the nonverbal, the body gestures, but there's also what we call vocal nonverbal, and that's things like, I see that look.
Vocal nonverbal.
So that's things like if you notice someone who stammers and says a lot, or has certain things they say habitually, like, you know what I'm talking about, things like that.
Yeah, I do a lot of like oohs. You know,
and that can convey enthusiasm, but it also sounds like a choice, and that makes it okay.
Oh,
when it's something that comes out of nervousness, that can impact how the interviewer feels about the interviewee's self-perception of confidence.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. So how would you say, judging me, and I didn't know we were going to do this, but I'm just going to have you look over, because you've watched me so far in the show, how would you say, like, is there anything that you would say I could work on?
I would say not in terms of your position, because that's what you wanted to hear. You wanted to hear that. You set me up. No, you know, one of the things we talk about is fit, just like David talked about in your earlier segment, is that you have the person and you have the position, and are they good together? So your personal ability and your natural extroversion go well in the position that you're currently in, right?
Right.
And so it's really not about having Rob be different. It's about giving him some tips on how to extend his natural authenticity into a work environment and make sure that he's creating a good fit with his potential employer.
I love that. I'm excited to get him back up here. But first, if people wanted to sign up for your class, where can they do that?
ComedySportsChicago.com. That's a Comedy Sports with a Z, Chicago.com.
That's wonderful. Okay, great. Coming up next, we are going to bring Rob and Comedy Sports with a Z back on and work on getting him that job. We'll be right back. Weekends with Whitney is a proud supporter of Project Hugs, helping uninsured get surgery. To join me in the mission to bring life-changing surgeries to those in need without insurance, stay tuned for the Weekends with Whitney 1-year anniversary special to see how you can make an impact in the lives of people with no insurance. Visit projecthugs.org to refer someone you know whose life can be changed through the amazing gift of medicine. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. I'm your host, Whitney Reynolds. Today we've been talking about finding that job. Two familiar faces are back on our set. We had Rob, who was looking for a job earlier, and Matt from Comedy Sports that holds a class to help people like Rob get jobs. So you watched him do his pitch to all of our viewers. What would you say? How did he do?
Well, the first thing that's great is that he had the courage to come on here and try something different.
Boy, did he. And he did not miss a step when he did that little pitch. He just said, he looked in the camera and he even kept going. I cut him off and he still kept going.
Absolutely. If I was to say anything, one thing we say in improv is that it's all about specifics. So when you were speaking about the things you did and you started to say, I've done painting, I've done construction, I've done, those kinds of lists can make a listener start to check out. So I would tell a specific story. You know, maybe a film that you worked on where you got to do all these different things. And that will actually draw me along as the listener with you.
Oh, I love that idea. A specific story that kind of hooks them in to know that you not only have the experience, but what you're good at.
Well, and that also fits with what is now being taught to people who are doing the interviewing on the other side. It's called behavior-based interviewing. And what they'll do is instead of saying, tell me what goes into working on a movie set, they'll say, tell me about a time when you worked on a movie set. They're really trying to get you to access a specific story because they find it's easier to draw off specifics and really find out what you've done rather than ask you an abstract.
I've got great stories.
I believe it. I
do.
absolutely believe it. In between the commercial breaks, he's been telling us all his stories, so I love that. That's one thing I would think that he would excel in, and I mean, you're the expert at this, but that he would be fine on his feet. But is there such thing as talking too much?
Absolutely, and again, it comes down to the fit with the position. So, what's expected of you as an on-air personality is much different than what's expected of someone who's doing gaffing, set painting, I think in your position, what comes down to is attention to detail, ability to work a long time without direction. So showing that you can work independently and showing that you can be very neat on your own. I think those are things that can come out in kind of well-spoken dialogue.
At your class, do you break these things down? So if he was talking too much or he was needing help in a specific area, you would notice that in the improv class?
When we work on interview specifics, the Developing Business Presence course is really about a general soft skills package.
Okay.
So what we talk about is give and take in conversation. And one of the things people don't think about when they're interviewing is that they really want to have give and take with their interviewer. The interviewer does want to talk about themselves and they do want to talk about their company. So the more that you can show interest in the fit rather than just wanting a job, the better the interviewer is going to feel about hiring you.
That was a skill that I had to learn. As much as I like to ask the questions on the show, in real life I like to talk a lot about me. And my mom was like, Whitney, there is a two-way conversation. You have to ask people about how it's going. And I've noticed that my conversations where I do take time to really get to ask some questions back to the people, then usually the conversations are much more heartfelt and I learn a little bit more than I would have. So I think that's a great skill in the interview as well to apply. I think a lot of people do think that when they are being interviewed, they have to answer everything. And so it is good. How would you say a soft way to ask a question back to the interviewee would be?
Let me ask you a question. I think it's fine. It really comes down to what is your rapport, and that's why we really focus on the nonverbal, because oftentimes those things feel weird because they haven't done enough to become comfortable in the room. So it's really about what your body is projecting. As we say, so little of what's actually remembered is what was spoken, so much as what is seen. So they're really going to remember, even if they don't consciously understand it, they're really going to remember how you were sitting in the chair, often more than what you said.
Ooh, and now how is Rob doing right now?
Rob looks very relaxed.
That's good.
Very relaxed.
Yeah, and you're learning these tips?
Absolutely.
Are there any questions that you want to ask Matt?
Well, I mean, there would be certain things of, would there be any subjects that I might not want to broach, even though I'm
that's a good
interested
question.
in it? Maybe something about the company itself or things like that, where I should just wait and if I get the position, then talk about.
Well, and I'll say that our expertise is really in the nonverbal. So when it comes to the actual text of questions, that's another thing to pursue. But here's what I would say: there are certain things that are more appropriate to talk about in a second interview than in a first, and compensation would be certainly one of those. Also, it's always good to do homework on a company so that you know some specific questions to ask. But you also don't necessarily want to engage the interviewer in a debate on behalf of their organization. There is some unspoken understanding that if you're interviewing with them, you have enough respect and interest and knowledge of this company that you want to work there.
That's incredible. I love that we have a comedy sports CEO and president breaking down ways to interview. I never would have thought it.
Well, we're auditioning 100 people every year to be in our company, and it requires a lot of saying, not quite right.
Not quite right. Well, we're hoping people after today, they're saying that is a fit.
Absolutely.
And we are ready to hire them. Rob, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for sharing your little tidbits with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we know a lot of you out there are in search of a job or looking to land that dream job, and we hope today's show really helped you. We want to hear your story, so go to our Weekends with Whitney Facebook page and let us know if this helped. We'll see you right back here next weekend.